So now let us start with fungal classification, lower fungi and higher fungi. Let us start with the lower fungi, Phycomycetes. Phycomycetes, lower fungi. Phyco means algae, algae-like fungi, more water-based fungi. Primitive plants like algae originated in water. Life of animals also originated in water as sponges. The life of fungi also seems to have originated in water through Phycomycetes, which are very algal-like fungi. They need a lot of water or moist conditions for their development. Phycomycetes are of two types, oomycetes and zygomycetes. Let us do one by one. Oomycetes, also called as algal fungi, very much like algae, water-based. Even their cell wall is made up of cellulose and not chitin. Chitin cell wall will begin from zygomycetes onwards. Their cell wall is so primitive that it is made up of cellulose, just like the algal counterparts. So let us write habitat, aquatic, high moist conditions, cell wall, cellulose. How will be their mycelium, septate or aseptate? Aseptate. Why? Because they are lower fungi. Remember, lower fungi have aseptate mycelium. Next, asexual spores. Asexual spores, since they are in the aquatic habitat, zoospores will work for them. Why? Because they are motile spores and they will be able to move nicely in water and move around. Also, aplanospores or sporangiospores. Next, sexual spores. The sexual spore will be oospore. Ooh, a 2N spore. Now if you wonder how this spore is 2N spore, I will explain. So what you see over here are two different hyphae of compatible mating types, and they have produced their sex organs. The female sex organ is called oogonium, and this will have produced inside it an N nucleus, the gamete, the female gamete, and this is the other hypha, and it would have produced this male sex organ, which is called antheridium, inside which it would have produced antheridia. This will produce a tube, it will produce a tube like this, and via this tube these gametes are going to travel and enter inside the oogonium, and as such there will be plasmogamy. And because oomycetes are lower fungi, plasmogamy will be immediately followed by karyogamy as well. The two nuclei of this one and this one will fuse together immediately, plasmogamy immediately followed by karyogamy, to produce a 2N nucleus. This nucleus that will be formed will be 2N, and with time this oogonium structure is going to get converted into a spore. This spore will be the 2N spore, oospore. It will be a thick-walled spore. This oospore is going to help it tide over the unfavorable conditions. Remember, sexual reproduction is undertaken during unfavorable conditions. So this oospore is going to help it tide over the unfavorable conditions. Upon the return of favorable conditions, what is going to happen is plasmogamy step is done, karyogamy is also done. It is stuck in the 2N stage. Upon the return of the favorable conditions, this will undergo its first cell division. What will be the first cell division? Meiosis. When meiosis is carried out, this oospore is going to produce 4 cells, which will be all N. Either these 4 cells will become zoospores. A zoosporangium will emerge from this. The zoospores will be released from the zoosporangium as 4 zoospores, or else 3 of these will degenerate and 1 of these will extend in the form of the new hypha to begin a new oomycete colony. So plasmogamy has happened, karyogamy has also happened immediately, and then meiosis has happened. Some popular examples of oomycetes include albugo. It causes a disease in mustard plants. It's called white rust of mustard. White rust of mustard disease is also called as white rust of crucifers, since mustard belongs to a family Cruciferae. Belongs to family Cruciferae. That's why white rust of mustard or white rust of crucifers. You have to learn both. Second example of oomycetes is Phytophthora infestans. This one is also a parasite. It causes late blight of potato. Late blight of potato because it infects potato in the late season. There is one called as early blight of potato as well, caused by Alternaria solani. This one causes late blight of potato, and this disease was responsible for the so-called Irish famine. The Irish famine was caused because of this particular oomycete, Phytophthora infestans. which caused late blight of potato and destroyed their potato crop. Most of the poor people were dependent on potato for staple diet, and that time British colonial rule was also present, so that aggravated the situation. So this is about Oomycetes, the lower fungi, algal fungi. Moving on to the second lower fungi, which is Zygomycetes. In the lower fungi, we are going to do the next class now, that is Zygomycetes. Zygomycetes, also called as the conjugation fungi. This is the one that includes your bread molds, Rhizopus, mucor, etc. They are mainly terrestrial, not watery water as in Oomycetes, slightly more terrestrial but still needing a lot of moisture. Habit terrestrial, and they will behave as saprophytes rather than parasites as in the Oomycetes. Oomycetes are mainly parasites, these are saprophytes. Next, cell wall will be present and it will be made up of chitin, not cellulose. Oomycetes had cellulose, these ones have chitin, the proper fungal cellulose. Next, mycelium. Mycelium will be septate or aseptate, will be aseptate since these are lower fungi. Aseptate mycelium, also called cenocytic. Next, asexual spores. Oomycetes prefer to have zoospores because they were aquatic in nature, and since the zoospores were motile, they could move around in water medium. But these are terrestrial, so they do not produce zoospores. They only produce the aplanospores. Aplanospores. And because of their terrestrial habitat, zoospores or motile spores are said to be absent. This is an important statement from NCERT. Motile spores are absent. Next, sexual spore. What will be their sexual spore? It will be zygospore, which will also be a 2N spore just like oospore, and we will see how this zygospore is formed in the life cycle of Zygomycetes. Let us say these are the two hyphae of two compatible mating types. And as you can see here, they have formed some sex organs here. These are the sex organs. They will be called as gametangia. These are the sex organs. As you may have understood, there will be the process of plasmogamy. After the fusion of the two gametangia, the situation will be like this. The wall in between the two gametangia will dissolve and another wall will be laid on either side of the gametangia in this manner, such that the nuclei in the gametangia are collected in the center in this manner. So the nuclei of the opposite mating types will be centered inside like this in this manner, plus minus. Plasmogamy has happened, and since these are lower fungi, this plasmogamy will immediately be followed by karyogamy, and as such the result will be this: a structure, a very thick walled structure with half the number of nuclei as this, because the nuclei have fused together to form diploid nuclei. So many diploid nuclei will be formed inside here, right? And this structure will become a dark body, a dark thick walled spore. This will now be called as zygospore, which will be 2N. Okay, zygospore, the sexual spore of Zygomycetes. This zygospore will then help the fungus in tiding over unfavorable conditions. Okay, it will remain viable. The nuclei will remain viable inside. Upon the return of favorable conditions, what happens? What will happen? There will be meiosis. Correct? Upon the return of favorable conditions, there will be meiosis. With meiosis, many nuclei, haploid nuclei will be formed inside. Since so many cells are undergoing meiosis, these will all be haploid. One of the nuclei will germinate to produce this. What is this? This is a sporangium, inside which there will be spores, which will be similar in genetic constitution to the nucleus that divided mitotically to form these spores, right? This will be an N structure since it has been produced by N cell. This sporangium will then disperse to release out the NNN spores, and wherever they settle, they will be forming new fungal colonies. This method of plasmogamy, which is seen in Zygomycetes, is called as conjugation, also called as gametangial contact, although this word is not there for you in NCERT, and that is the reason why these fungi are called as conjugation fungi. Two popular examples of Zygomycetes include Rhizopus, black bread mold, and mucor, white bread mold. So that is about Oomycetes and Zygomycetes, and with that we have completed the lower fungi or algal fungi, more water based, lots of moisture.
महादेव के नाम पे सब्सक्राइब कर दे।